Good afternoon and welcome to our continued coverage of India's cosmic leap. Our big focus, Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla, the 39-year-old Indian Air Force pilot turned astronaut who, in 7 minutes from now, on the Crew Dragon spacecraft, along with his crew members, will be docking at the International Space Station. The video that you see is live footage coming in from Axiom 4, which is the private company which is in charge of this mission, right? The private aeronautical company in charge of this mission. Live footage coming in. The spacecraft itself has been built by SpaceX, NASA, a close partner. The International Space Station, where they'll be docking and staying for several days before they return to Earth, is an international effort, as the name suggests. There's an American module, a Russian module. There are international components in other modules as well. But the process of docking with the International Space Station is a slow process. It takes time, it's precise, it's largely automated, but it's at this stage that Group Captain Shukla's role as pilot on this mission comes into play. The final override authority, once cleared by the commander of the mission, Peggy Whitson, would then be carried out by Group Captain Shukla in the event of any last-second course corrections which are required. There is a huge safety issue as well at this stage. The crew members, including Shukla, are looking very closely at their consoles, at their glass cockpit, as it were, to get an idea of where exactly they are placed. Remember, they have to match the exact trajectory of the International Space Station, the speed of the space station, and they'll be inching forward they'll be inching forward slowly, I should mention, to ensure that first there is a soft seal that takes place and then a hard seal when the clamps on the Crew Dragon engage the clamps on the International Space Station. It's only once that takes place that the astronauts from the Crew Dragon can be transferred on to the International Space Station. That's going to take a couple of hours from now. What we are focusing on now is that critical 5 minutes. This is one of the most critical parts of this entire voyage, where the Crew Dragon module locks into the International Space Station in what is called a soft lock. It is an extremely precise maneuver. The thrusters on the Crew Dragon will be firing as and when required to ensure that the spacecraft is perfectly aligned. Let's just listen in for a moment to what's happening in that live feed before we go across to Pallav Bagla, our science editor, who's with me in the studio.
6:30 a.m. Eastern, as we return to that exciting view from Dragon looking up at the International Space Station. You can ever so faintly see the solar arrays coming into view and that strobe light illuminating the radiators, which are right along that central portion and angling upward. The International Space Station and the Dragon spacecraft now approaching the west coast of North America, right around the Seattle area, that border between the United States and Canada, as we are approaching 1 minute away from waypoint 1, the second checkpoint and second series of waypoints for the spacecraft to reach to. The teams have already pulled go, but we will listen for the call outs for that waypoint 1 arrival.
Dragon SpaceX on the big loop, approach 1 and soft capture ring extension will begin shortly. Dragon will continue approach to waypoint 2. As a reminder, manual impulsive retreat recovery is not permitted.
And Dragon copies all.
And there you heard communications on the big loop about that soft capture ring. And that is the initial contact that will occur between the Dragon spacecraft and the International Space Station. A soft capture, with that soft capture ring then retracting and the 12 hooks that will drive and connect and form a hard mate between the spacecraft and the International Space Station. From there, power communications will then be connected up, and NASA astronaut Nicole Ayers will make her way into the pressurized mating adapter and get ready for hatch opening procedures, which will require bringing the vestibule, the space between the two hatches, between the International Space Station and Dragon Grace together. And there we see the orbital sunrise making its way over top of the International Space Station as they continue their pursuit of each other, now angling over at North America. And there in the center screen, if you look at the topmost, the Dragon now perfectly aligned over top of the International Space Station, now looking down at that Node 2 Zenith port, and a great view just off the bottom portion there. That is the Dragon Endurance spacecraft that it'll be just alongside of. So Dragon has reached waypoint 0, and on initial comms earlier that the teams on the ground, once reaching waypoint 1, have been allowed to bypass that waypoint and now move on to waypoint 2, which will be in about 9 minutes from now, and targeting docking in about 14.5 minutes from there. Go, no-go polls for docking in about 7 minutes as the teams on the ground continuing to monitor Dragon's progress. And once they arrive to waypoint 2, there will be a pause, make sure everything is lined up just perfectly before that final approach and docking.
Come in over here as we see this incredible footage. And if you look at you see the International Space Station right in front of you. That's the view from the Crew Dragon. But Pallav, I find that monitor, that display on the bottom right-hand side of your screen, bottom right-hand, which appears to show the thrusters in action.
That is true. That's the live display of the thrusters, the Draco thrusters on the Grace module, firing to make sure that the crew module and the International Space Station are perfectly aligned for a docking. Right now, the update is that they are expecting a 4 p.m. India time soft capture of the docking, and then it's a long wait till the hatch opens. These times can vary a little bit because the pressures have to be stabilized. Even the docking mechanism, the times can vary a little bit depending upon the accuracy and the position of the space station and the crew module. So there can be a little variation in the time, and we keep seeing that NASA and SpaceX are updating the time every now and then, saying docking expected at this time, expected at that time. So right now expected at 4 p.m. So that will be the first time Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla would be touching the International Space Station, albeit only with the Crew Dragon and not stepping inside, which would take a couple of hours after that.
You know, Pallav, what we see on the monitor in the top right-hand side is actually fascinating, because that's the view from the Crew Dragon to the International Space Station and the exact point that they are heading at. Now, this, of course, is the external view, again from the Crew Dragon, looking at the International Space Station, and they're heading straight. And they're going to be, latching on to one of the ports over there. There are several ports in which spacecraft, including
They're going to be hooking on to what's called the Harmony module,
right,
and using that American module.
There are life rafts as well, by which I mean Soyuz aircraft, Soyuz spacecraft, which are permanently docked. There's always at least one Soyuz capsule. The Russian Soyuz is, of course, done yeoman service on the International Space Station. At least one of them is always docked to ensure that if the crew needs to get out, they can get onto that. It serves as a life raft. But this would, SpaceX has been providing so many missions up to the International Space Station in order to get crew supplies in, crew members in. Pallav, go ahead.
See, in the next 5 minutes, we'll approach what is called the go, no go point, meaning if we cross that 5 minutes, it's an automated process. After that, they do not retract. They get into that safe zone, and after that 5 minutes, it has to be a docking. So if any change has to be done, it will be in less than 5 minutes. That is the normal protocol.
What an incredible view, Pallav.
Yes, this is the
This is the front. This is from the International Space Station. The hatch of the Crew Dragon has opened a little while back. You're zooming in right now to get a better view. Don't worry, it's not moving that fast. That was just a camera zoom in. Pallav, a bit worried at that stage. And then it's all going to happen really slowly right now. And in about, 3 minutes, 49 seconds, or maybe a little bit more than that. It's going to gently get into place. Now, there are thrusters which are constantly firing because they have to match the exact trajectory of the International Space Station. And if you look at a display on the bottom right-hand side, you can see exactly what thrusters, and you can't see them visibly. Sometimes you can.
The light shines on the thruster which is firing at that particular moment. This is a live feed, and there are 12 Draco thrusters there.
Oh, what a remarkable sight. Just look at that. And you can see the thrusters firing as if on cue. Pallav evidently has a direct neural link with the International Space Station and the Crew Dragon. But you could see, and you will continue to see, the thrusters fire, the forward thrusters, just as absolutely millimeter perfect adjustments are made. This is a view of the Crew Dragon as it approaches the International Space Station. Pallav.
And Vishnu, for our viewers, they need to understand both are traveling at about 28,000 kilometers per hour. The relative velocity between the two would be nearly zero when the docking happens.
The speed is 26,481 kilometers per hour right now.
You got a sharper eyesight. I can't read that much, but that's what the speed.
An altitude of 423 kilometers.
420. That's roughly the altitude on which the International Space Station travels. Right now, I'm told the space station is somewhere over North America, and the docking is expected in the next 7-8 minutes, with another 2 minutes to go for that exact go, no go point, because after that, it has to be a docking. If they have to abort, they have to do it a little before that. Because beyond that, they go into what is called the keep out sphere.
Right.
So, lovely views. The front hatch is open. The hatch from which the crew entered the Grace Dragon was the side hatch. That side hatch will remain closed throughout this 14-day mission. It will open only when they have the perfect splashdown, because that side hatch opens only for entry and exit of the crew. On the space station, it's the front hatch which is used for entry and exit of the crew. So we can see the lights and the laser lights firing away to make sure that the Crew Dragon is perfectly aligned with the Harmony module and the port there. The docking mechanism itself is a very complicated process, jointly developed between NASA and Roscosmos, and all of this has been perfected over years and years, over hundreds of dockings. I should also remind our viewers that India also recently did a space docking experiment. We docked and undocked 2 of our uncrewed satellites. They were in circular orbit, all in preparation for human docking, which may happen at some point for India. So India also becoming the 4th country to do docking in space. Right now it has only been done by America, Russia, and China. India became the 4th to dock in space. And right now we are seeing the Crew Dragon and the crew on board. The Indian, American, Hungarian, and the Polish crew got to name the capsule, which is very rare.
What a lovely name, though, Harmony.
Yeah, no, Harmony is the module. The name of the capsule is Grace.
Right. Sorry.
And the little soft toy they are carrying on them as the zero gravity indicator is called Joy. So Joy and Grace, lovely names for the the capsule. And astronaut Peggy Whitson did say when she was traveling in this that it has the scent of a new capsule because it's the first time it has been flown. That's why they got to name it. So the name will stay permanently as Grace.
All right, let's just listen in for a moment, Pallav, to what the commentary is from Axiom. No audio at the moment is what I'm told, but my God, just look at how amazing this is. And this is high definition footage coming in from 423 kilometers above the Earth of one spacecraft focusing on another spacecraft traveling at a speed of 26,481 kilometers per hour.
And it's right now.
Hang on, we've got the audio back up. Let's listen.
To the International Space Station. Dragon Grace now 25 meters away.
All right, less than 25 meters at the stage before the Crew Dragon spacecraft.
Dragon has now reached waypoint 2, 20 meters away from the International Space Station, and will continue its approach to the International Space Station.
Pallav, have we reached a go-no-go point?
I think we have crossed the go-no-go point.
And there you can see a great view of that zenith port, that space-facing port of the International Space Station's Harmony module.
What an incredible view of the...
As the Dragon spacecraft right now sitting at waypoint 2, just 20 meters away.
Houston, station for step 4 in block Bravo. Dragon attitude is as expected.
Houston copies. Station Houston on the big loop. Dragon is on final approach and is go for docking. Monitor per steps 5 and 6 and 1.102.
Station copies, monitoring per steps 5 and 6.
And there you heard it. The final steps relayed up to the crew for final approach and docking have been given as we continue to see Dragon Grace spacecraft close the gap between them and the International Space Station. Now, just before the spacecraft reaches the international docking adapter for that soft capture, you'll hear the call out CHOP, or crew hands off point, which Dragon will continue its journey and make that initial connection, that soft capture, in those final few moments.
SpaceX Dragon, 10 meters.
10 meters.
Inside 10 meters, a little less now than 30 feet away, is all that separates Dragon Grace from the International Space Station.
5 meters.
5 meters.
You can say both views.
Five meters before the Crew Dragon with Shubhanshu Shukla docks with the International Space Station. Let's cut back and listen in on what's happening.
2 meters. Chop.
2 meters.
Station. 2 meters. Chop.
We have chop.
1 meter.
1 meter. Dragon contact and soft capture complete.
All right, breaking news now. The soft
copy.
dock has been successful. The Dragon capsule with Shubhanshu Shukla has
Dragon
docked
Grace
with the
and the
International
Axiom
Space
mission 4
Station.
crew have arrived to the International Space Station at 5:31 a.m. Central Time over the North Atlantic as the two orbiting around the Earth, connecting with the soft capture ring, and now we'll begin the ring retraction to bring the two vehicles closer together, and then the 12 hooks, the two sets of 6,
Ring
will drive to
retraction in
form a
progress.
hard nut. And there you heard there, the soft capture ring is retracting, and then we'll do so until sensors are indicating it's time for those hooks to drive in place and give us a hard capture and firmly secure Dragon to station. And again, Axiom Mission 4 and its commander Peggy Whitson, pilot Shubhanshu Shukla of ISRO, and mission specialist Sławosz Uznański-Wiśniewski and Tibor Kapu of ESA and Hunor have arrived to the International Space Station with contact at 5:31 a.m. Central, 6:31 a.m. Eastern, as the two were orbiting over the North Atlantic. The soft capture ring, that initial contact between Dragon Grace and the International Space Station, continuing to retract, and we'll await for the calls that the sensors read that it will be time for those 12 hooks on the Dragon to then begin driving and connecting itself to form a hard mate to the International Space Station.
Ring retraction complete. Docking sequence is holding for MCS reconfiguration.
This is Mission Control Houston, as you are seeing a live view of the recently connected Dragon Grace spacecraft with the Axiom Mission 4 astronauts and Peggy Whitson, Shubhanshu Shukla, Sławosz Uznański-Wiśniewski, and Tibor Kapu arrive to the International Space Station. Soft capture and contact at 5:31 a.m. Central Time, 6:31 a.m. Eastern, as the two were orbiting above the North Atlantic. And right now, the two mated with that soft capture, the soft capture ring retracting to pull the spacecraft closer to the International Space Station. And once given the go, the ring or the hooks around the Dragon nose cone will drive and connect to form a hard mate. Teams on the ground in both Houston.
Station Houston on the big loop. MCS configured, proceeding with hook driving.
Station copies.
And the great call there, that's the next step in this docking procedure, is the driving of the hooks, the 12 hooks surrounding the nose cone or the nose of the Dragon spacecraft. And we'll monitor those. They'll drive in 2 sets of 6. The first set of 6 right now, they're traveling, and we'll continue to follow along as the docking process continues on.